on, guys? Welcome back to NetworkChuck. Today, man, we're talking more hacking. I promised you guys I have some hacking people on, and I got this guy. I want to be him when I grow up. Seriously, he's awesome. It's STÖK. You've probably seen him. He's a YouTuber, man. He's got like almost 70,000 subscribers. Talks a lot about bug bounty, which is kind of a crazy thing. It's a way to make money hacking legally. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and play his intro real quick. It's such a cool thing, and I have to play it. So here it is real quick. Oh, wait, that's not it. Here it is.
Hi, I'm STÖK, and this is Bounty Thursdays.
So super cool dude. I mean, his video editing puts me to shame. His look and feel, I envy over that. But anyways, STÖK is on right now. What's going on, STÖK? Say hi to people.
Hi, everybody. It's so awesome to be here. Thank you for bringing me on your show.
Yeah, dude, you've been on my list for a long time, so it's just a pleasure to have you on here. And I brought you on to talk about what you love doing. You have your show called Bounty Thursdays, which is talking about bug bounty. When I first started getting into hacking, I had no idea bug bounty was a thing. So, like, real quick, we'll go into who you are, where people can find you, and everything else. But first, what is this bug bounty thing? What is it?
It's kind of complex, but also very, very simple. So let's, for instance, that you found a vulnerability, let's break it down. It's a way for security people, like security researchers, developers, security curious people to identify security vulnerabilities in applications and programs or companies that have something that is defined as a bug bounty program, which means it's a way for people to actually report those kind of bugs into their security system. And if it's a valid bug, like a serious security issue, because bug bounties is all about impact, and we'll talk about that later, you will get some kind of reward. It could be some kind of points, it could be a Hall of Fame mention, or it can actually be hard cash.
So, okay, bug bounty. So basically these companies, and we're talking like not just small companies or even mid-size, we're talking like Fortune 500s, they're paying random hackers to find vulnerabilities in their systems. Yeah, that's how it works. It's leveraging leveraging the crowd is kind of the way to say it, because crowdsourcing it.
Yeah, crowdsourcing. Instead of using this one kind of pen tester organization or company that every quarter comes in and tests your systems, you're more or less having a continuous testing of certain parts on your application, your websites. And some companies even have something that is defined as an open scope, like Uber for once. Everything that's related to Uber is in scope, which means that you can hack at it.
Wow.
Yeah, I am. They got it start.uber.com, and there might just be a certain, like a couple of them. I haven't read up on their current report or the way that they explain what they're doing over at HackerOne, but usually what it is, it's that the company, like let's say like Verizon or Uber or maybe Dropbox or some of the big organizations that have these kind of stuff, says that, okay, we have a bug bounty now, and these are the things that we have in scope. We would like for you as a security researcher or just a security curious person to poke at stuff until it breaks. And then if it breaks badly, we'll throw money at you. That's kind of the way it is. That's
crazy to me, because like I know that a lot of people have the understanding that these big companies like Apple and Uber, they probably, I have assumed for the longest time that they just have the most amazing security staff on their teams, and they probably do. But they realize that even with that, they are still vulnerable. They can't look at everything and find every single issue. So they depend on companies like HackerOne to find people like yourself to come in and try to break in. And yeah, y'all do. You do find places to break in. You do find vulnerabilities, which blows my mind. So hacking illegally is a thing. How did you? Because I've been watching your channel for a long time, so some of these questions I already know the answer to, but a lot of people don't. How did you become a bug bounty hunter? Is that the appropriate name? Like, are you called a bug bounty hunter? Do you like the term hacker? What do you like?
I like to be called a hacker because I want to normalize the thing that
that's what NetworkChuck said. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. because people do this misconception where they think hackers are criminals, and they have this term called ethical hacking. And that kind of annoys me a bit, because we have ethical doctors. Yeah, of course we have that. And do we also have ethical plumbers? In theory, anyone that just follows the code and does it right is defined a plumber. We don't need to have an ethical plumber, because
I like that.
The other plumber is going to be a shady fucker. Oh, sorry about my French.
That was French, guys.
Yeah. And that's the thing. For me, a hacker is a hacker. Somebody that breaks the law is a criminal. So I love the way that Casey Ellis explains it. He usually says it this does. Casey Ellis is the founder of BugCrowd, which is also one of those marketplaces where hackers can meet companies and exchange bugs, kind of. And he explains it in such a good way. Let's say that you know a locksmith, right? Somebody that could help you open your door if you lost your keys. Like, you're standing there outside your door and like, damn, I don't have my keys on. And my phone is locked inside the car, and the extra pair of things that I need is in there. So you're knocking on your neighbor's door, and you can borrow the phone. You call a locksmith. That person comes over there and uses this locking picking thingy, and then opens your door, lets you in, and they have the skill maybe to disarm your alarm if something broke, and that kind of stuff. They are professionals. They are professionals on opening doors. And when they're done, we say, thank you. This was the problem. You apparently lost your key here, but we'll replace the cylinders and we're good to go. So bye-bye now, and they leave. On the other hand, a burglar or a criminal would be somebody that uses the same techniques, but then you steals all your shit, leaves a note, and maybe takes a dump in your bathroom and goes out. That's a criminal. That's not something they're supposed to do. We are professionals. Hackers see that as your friendly locksmith. And the ones that like to break the law and do the other things, they are burglars. They are criminals. I'm not a criminal. I like to sleep at night. That's why I do bug bounties, because bug bounties gives me the way to poke at all these amazing companies and try their security without the risk of being thrown into jail. And that wasn't possible 10 years ago.
That's crazy. Like 10 years ago, that wasn't really a thing. Like, I know that they would have like the random things, like where these rogue hackers might find something and the company would go, oh, thank you for doing that. Here's a reward. I'm not gonna throw you in jail. But now it's like an official, totally above the board situation. So I love that. Wearing the term hacker as a badge of honor. It's like a plumber, it's like a locksmith, it's like anything. You can do it bad, you can do it good. And I honestly, I do kind of like the whole black hat, white hat, ethical, like whatever. There's just hackers. Some are good, some I love that. I love that so much. Anyways, so how did you get into hacking and bug bounty? Have you been doing it for a very long time?
It started back in, I think it's early 2018. Like I say, in the spring of 2018, that's where I really got started with it.
Okay.
But I got introduced to bug bounties in 2017 when I went to DEF CON, and I knew this. I wasn't really fully invested in what HackerOne was, but I had a couple of friends called Franz Rosen that's seen some of the before I started doing hacker educational or cybersecurity related content. I did some blue teaming kind of video content, and he really liked that. And he said, I got this really cool dude that I want you to meet over at HackerOne. His name is Ted Kramer, and they're going to be at this hotel, and it's going to be this live hacking conference or event. And I'm like, whoa, that seems cool. What can I do to do that? And then I spent like most of the day trying to social engineer myself to be at the bar. And I got in eventually, and then just got in there and just started to talk to people. And because I was on the defensive side, I was working as a systems architect, and I have 25 years of experience as an IT professional. So I was there just because I was more interested in the defending end of kind of things, and I was half and half into the offensive part. But when I found out that you can actually just poke at stuff, get paid, and you can experiment and learn stuff on these companies that I thought was totally like, you can't touch those. It just blew my mind. And I started to try to figure things out. And then eventually, let's say 3 quarters later, in early in May, I think, I had the possibility to join Franz Rosen to Goa, India for NullCon, which is a security conference. And there I met Jobert Abma, which is the founder of HackerOne, and we were sitting.
Wow.
I was sitting editing some stuff and having some beers in his room, and he said, and I used to ask him, like, could you show me some hacking? And he said, and he pulled up Burp Suite, and he said, okay, check this out, and then showed me some kind of things in there, and I'm like, fuck, I need to do this. This is my calling in life. And then I did nothing but eat, sleep, and hack and repeat that for the last 2.5 years. And yeah, I made a lot of money, and I traveled the world doing these live hacking events, and I love it. And now every chance I have, I'm sharing my adventure and experience that I pick up along the way with others.
So this is just the coolest story. So many things I want to unpack. So I'm just like, okay, I'm trying to figure out where to start. First, Namansek said that you can make pretty good money hacking. I believe him. I believe him that bug bounty is lucrative.
Sure.
Is it truly that lucrative for you?
Due to tax reasons, I'm not going to give you any numbers, but I did more than I earned in a full year as a systems architect at a really good firm in a few months.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So my audience is already like, okay, tell me more. How do we do this? So I want to walk through, because I know everyone's not starting from where you're starting from. You were already at a hacking conference, so you obviously had a strong interest in hacking. You were blue teaming. Now, I do have this honest question. Like, I have some fuzziness on it. What's the main difference between someone who's just in IT security, so maybe like a networking security expert or system security, and then also what's the difference between them and a blue team expert? Is there a large difference?
No, not really. They are all doing the same thing, but maybe let's say that your job is to secure, like we talked about vulnerabilities, right? We did that before. And you're a network kind of guy, and you know that you're only as good as the latest firmware. That your knowledge just that's how it works. A new release comes out, you kind of need to upgrade your game, because there are some fixes or some other things that's been put into that. Companies like Cisco or Aerohive or whatever just don't release things for the fun of it. It's feature updates, and there's vulnerabilities that they fix.
Yeah. And I literally said that in my last video. I'm like, guys, I was telling people to upgrade their router firmware at their house. Like, there's a reason they update these things. It's not just to make you have to reboot your router. No, you need these things.
Because they want to protect you, right? And if that's one of your area that you specialized in, but if we're taking it a broader, let's say that you're stepping up a couple of notch, then you have a team of network engineers that the only job that they have to do is to work for uptime. Like keep the uptime up. There's redundancy, there's patching, there's load balancers, there are all this high-end infrastructure that's running. But then you got some shitty Windows boxes behind those that needs to be updated, but they are legacy, so you need to defend those.
Like and Windows XP or something?
maybe. You know where I'm going.
And for real though, I walk into a Cisco data center. I was doing a tour there. I saw a Windows XP terminal up and running, and they used that sucker. And this was like 2 years ago. I was so appalled. Anyways, continue.
You see how it looks in the transport industry. It's super common. Anyway, so you got all these computers and servers and everything, and somebody needs to monitor and take care of that. That's usually like a NOC or a SOC or something. And in the whole idea about blue teaming is also being able to identify breaches. Okay, so we got a breach. How do we deal with it? How does the threat hunting work? How does the incident response team work? All that kind of stuff that you need to protect inside your organization. That's what blue teamers do. We defend the system against external attackers, and we need to have systems and things to monitor that. So let's say that you have a SIEM or something that your switch is talking to, and all that. We will see some malicious traffic on somebody trying to fiddle around with the ports. Then okay, that's probably something physical, that something's happening. Or maybe there's just a lot of brute force logins happening over at the VPN. or the ASA or something. Like you want to know what's going on, and
Okay.
so it's more in the defending role, but it's more like a global role. You need to know everything. You can't just protect one thing.
Yeah, see, like I've been in.
Did it clarify a bit?
Oh, it totally did. And now that you tell me that, I've been in situations in my companies to where I was that role. Like, even though my focus, my specialty was networking, I did the Windows stuff, I did everything else. We didn't have a dedicated security staff. Security was left up to me. And and I was monitoring those things, looking. We didn't have a proper. Now I always called it a SIEM, the SIEM. SIEM, SIEM sounds better to me. So I did have that, and I used that. So yeah, I guess I was a blue teamer at one point. So you were a blue teamer, and you were. What would you say is your specialty, or did it just have to be everything? Like, you're monitoring the whole network and all the systems.
I think, like, going back at it, my specialty is troubleshooting or just finding anomalies. That's always been the thing. And it's more like the soft infrastructure. Now when DevOps has turned into what it is today, like application is infrastructure or code is infrastructure. It's different. So
I can't wait to unpack that with you. Oh man.
the world has just changed a bit. So, but I would say my passion is still and always has been Active Directory. It's the heart and the source of Windows environments, especially in bigger enterprises. If you reach over like 2 forests and 5 to 10,000 users in your organizations, you need to be able to manage and understand what's going on. If you don't do that, you're fucked. Like, that's kind of how it is. So,
that's encouraging for those people. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's all good.
No,
so my end was that's my background. So you kind of need to know that I've been doing this for, like, professionally. As a consultant, I have over 45,000 hours built.
Wow.
And that's not just on one company. I went to companies to help them sort things out, and that's what I've been doing most of my life. So I've seen a plethora of different environments, and I just realized that I'm so good at finding the anomalies and see where people cheat or where they're misdoing stuff, that I was a really good offensive person, because I knew where people kind of missed things, and that led me into taking that background. And with no web experience, but then understanding how applications and logic work and how things communicate, that just gave me a big heads up on the things that I do. I still don't know cross-site scripting. I suck at it, but I'm good at logical bugs and race conditions and weird stuff.
So okay, that bleeds into a great question I want to get into, and that's you obviously had a leg up because you did a lot of blue team security. For someone who doesn't have that experience, what would you say is the best way for them to step into bug bounty hunting, which is basically red teaming and offensive?
Oh yeah, I would say get yourself some kind of, or this is how I did it from an absolute beginner to doing the things. And I know PowerShell. I probably could reconfigure a couple of old Cisco routers using the old language, but I'm not a developer by heart. That I can read code. I can read a lot of code, but I don't write it. I can copy and paste myself through life. Like that's probably how it's that's nicely said. So I would say what I did is that I got myself a burp license, right? And burp is a proxy. So what it does is that if you're having a browser, because you need some way to interact with this server or application. So usually that's a browser, or it could be a phone with an app on it. That app communicates over the network to this application. And it's going to be some authentication in there. There's going to be some tokens, and there's going to be a lot of jam to authorize you as a user to get access to that system. And a way for us to do that kind of matrix breakdown, where we can actually look at it and see what's going on without kind of guessing, is to use either we can use the Chrome developer tools, or we can use a proxy. My preferred proxy of choice is Portswigger's Burp Suite, and a couple of plugins like Logger++ is some of the ones I use, and some others. And I started to browse each and every website that I ever normally visited, and had it in a passive monitoring mode. So I didn't want it to actively just poke at stuff, but I wanted it to report things that, kind of stood out. And doing that, I just gracefully understood how applications worked. I just had it passively on one screen while I was doing my normal jam on the other one. And then I could see things. In the beginning, it was like, ugh, I have no idea what's going on. Seems fun, I guess. But after a while, you're getting used to it. It's like when you're doing juggling, you need to learn how to do the throws first before you can add a third ball and then a fourth, and then eventually you're up and going and it's all fun. So I would recommend anyone to just get some kind of proxy, and then you start looking at stuff.
And you're basically putting yourself in the middle of your web browsing, right? Kind of like a man, you're man in the middle attacking yourself, right? You're just kind of putting yourself in the middle and you're monitoring.
100%. That's what I'm doing. And I'm looking at stuff because you can intercept it on both ways. And you can say login user, blah, blah, blah. And then it will respond back. The web application is going to respond back. Okay, STÖK seems to be a member of this organization. He has the role of user. And then you intercept that and change that to admin instead. And suddenly you have access to the admin panel. Fun stuff. And that's just a simple match and replace rule because the browser doesn't know it. And maybe it's a browser side authentication part, so you will get access to it. They need to harden stuff on the API, of course, but you get the idea. Maybe you'll get some part of the UI that you're not supposed to see. And you can automate stuff and do brute force attacks and a lot of fun jazz with these kind of applications. I recommend anyone to do that. But then again, if you're super, super curious about web application hacking, Hacker 101 is a great resource for you. HackerOne has that. Horsewiggers Academy, super good too. Very educational.
Oh, okay.
And if you want to spend a little bit of that good cash, throw that over at Lewis over at pentesterlab.com. They're a sponsor of my show, but primarily because I love the shit that they do. It's a very simple getting from beginning to end kind of trying stuff. You learn how to use the Linux terminal, then eventually you learn how to do some basic web app pen testing, and then eventually you grow because it's all about doing these live kind of things in a tutored way. Try HackMe, Hack the Box, all these amazing sites. Try to look for the ones that have any kind of web application based stuff because you won't be doing the OSCP on this one. It has nothing to do with it. It's internal networking for OSCP, and this is a different kind of jam.
Interesting. Okay, so there's no official certification path for bug bounty.
No.
Interesting. Okay, so it's kind of the Wild West right now.
It's a little bit different, and there's a couple of courses out there that you can attend, but none of them are really good. And if let's say that you're able to master the top 10 on the OWASP top 10 list, good for you. Go get that dough. That's how it is.
So, you mentioned that you don't really know any, you can read code, but you don't know how to code. Is that accurate?
Kind of. I do Bash. I do Python.
Okay.
And I do normal stuff. And I dabble with, I can write some HTML and CSS and maybe dabble with some JavaScript, but that's about it. But 2 years ago, I had no idea about that because I spent all my time into PowerShell. So I kind of had to learn this because I want to break web. I think web is fun. It's the frontier. It's the front end. It's getting past the WAF and destroying stuff, or no, helping organization being more secure.
Of course, let's adjust that. So that's interesting. So it's so cool to hear that you were a Windows person, pretty much. You were PowerShell, you were Active Directory. Were you big into Linux before any of this?
No.
At all? Really? Interesting.
At all.
Wow. So 2 years ago,
it's my primary operational system now.
That's wild. So obviously Linux is a big deal because it runs most of the internet, right? So how did you start learning and picking up Linux, HTML, CSS, Python? Was it just getting into it, getting your hands dirty, or did you follow any kind of structured path to learn?
I got too much ADHD to study, man. I'm seeing the things that you guys do, and you're sitting there studying and reading. I can't do that. It's only hands-on for me. I'm extremely audiovisual, so I need to have that kind of interaction. YouTube, big helper, but then again, being able to just call people up and ask people. I got a strong network of people that I can talk to, but most of the things that I do is primarily built upon me just doing the grind. It seems ridiculous, but the only way to really level up in this is not to get any handouts. If you get a handout, it's this old Christian saying that if you give a man a fish you will feed him for a day. If you show a man how to fish, he'll be probably sustained for a lifetime. And that's the whole idea. You need to do the work. And for me, I know this really cool website. It's called www.google.com. I type things in there and things come back. That's kind of how I do it. I Google all the things. I see myself as a black belt in Google. That's how I do.
That's such an underrated skill that people just don't realize how important that is. My gosh, I feel like I talk about it on every stream because every person I bring on who's an expert in their field, which man, you're an expert in your field. That's the skill they bring up. Google. There's no secret to like learning all this stuff. It's like you Google something and someone has done it or learned about it or dealt with it. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think the skill is to find an anomaly or the way that is to some kind of like, I don't know, sort out the information. What is actually important for me at this time? I think that's the skill set.
And I love, and I think a lot of people are attracted to the way that like learning hacking and becoming a bug bounty hunter. The path to that isn't necessarily like, okay, study for the certification, then pass your test, and then maybe you can like. No, it's not that. It's mostly hands-on. It's mostly developing those skills as you do, and that's attractive. But I know there are people, and this is kind of half me, where I kind of want that structured skill set. I want to like, okay, if I want to be a bug bounty hunter, I need to know this much Linux, this much Python, whatever. What would you say are like the top 5 skills? Now, this is on the spot because I know, man, here we go. Top 5 skills you would say that a bug bounty hunter needs to start kind of building on right now?
I would say, first off, know how to do internet cloud infrastructure. You need to be able to spin up VPSs. Ooh. So you're able to, because you don't want to attack from your own server. Bear with me here. Oh man, I'm going to give you this. Let's say that you're doing a race condition. You understand the concept of a race condition, right? That you're sending a request in, and then the response is coming back. And if you send multiple requests in, then the backend needs to kind of figure that out. It is all based around the concept around time and bandwidth. So let's say you're sitting in India and you're trying to have a race condition on something on a website. You're trying to redeem a coupon for $10 at Starbucks, right? And you want to send not one request in, you want to send 100 requests at the same time. And hopefully the system's not going to be fast enough, so it will redeem 2 of them. So you'll get $20 worth of coffee instead of just 10.
How often does this happen?
You understand the concept there?
Yeah.
It's a race condition. It's one of those things that the backend can't handle the amount of traffic going on. But if you're sitting on the other side of the world, now we're network nerdy here, and we're having latency and bandwidth issues because you're having a lot of router hops before you reach that site on the west coast of the US. What happens if you do a little bit of OSINT and realize that, okay, these guys are in the second data center in that Amazon sphere that's going to be probably somewhere around here. Then you spin up a SSD drive, high bandwidth kind of service there, and run one of your tiny Python scripts from there, headless. Bam! Suddenly you're sending thousands of requests with super low latency. If you're really, really good at it, you might be able to spin it up in exactly the same rack. Now you're in for the good money, because how do you protect against that? You're using the internal infrastructure.
That's crazy. Okay, I know cloud. I'm Azure certified, and AWS. I know that pretty well. So that's crazy. Being able to use the skills and figure out how to find places in the infrastructure, get that low latency, and be able to attack very quickly. Now, question for you though: is there kind of like a gray legality in that area? Because technically you are offensively hacking someone using AWS infrastructure. Understandably, if you're using Bug-Crowd or HackerOne, that company gave you permission, but will AWS get kind of mad at you for using their infrastructure?
No, why would they? They might just abuse you. Like you get some abuse things. But the thing what you're doing is that you are using their infrastructure to attack a target that have given you permission to do so. So are you allowed to host random stuff on your website in AWS? Are you allowed to use that as a VPN and then surf on the internet on the other side of the planet? Yes, you are. So it's all about that stuff. You're not attacking somebody that's not asking for it. You're only doing it on the things that are in scope. And that's the important thing. Don't step out of scope.
So I love that.
Because
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Because if you are in scope, you got safe harbor. there's a lot of things that will help you out, because you can say that, oh, I accidentally sent away 5 million requests. That was a bit problematic. So it's all about being smart, right?
Yeah.
And what I normally do is that I run, Nmap, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. So, Nmap on internal networks can take a little bit of a time. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to scan like a couple of thousand addresses, you can go to bed and just get up in the morning. Mm-hmm. But instead, what you do is that you spin up 25 droplets on DigitalOcean and give them 5 IP addresses each. And then you send that away with a full P/P scan, and each and every one of those are sending the requests in. Now you're staying underneath the radar and bypassing the WAFs, because you're using these only 5 requests coming out from these independent IPs. That's distributed scanning.
Interesting. Now, a droplet, is it like a Docker or Kubernetes kind of thing, or is that just like a little virtual machine?
It's a small virtual machine.
Okay.
But you don't need massive. You need one of these tiny, 1 gigabyte ROM kind of shit, because you're using Nmap on it. You just want to have massive bandwidth throughput.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty cool. And it gets me thinking, because there's Kubernetes, which is deploying mass scale architecture, containerized. Mm-hmm. Could totally do something like that. That's interesting. Okay, so cloud skills. Didn't see that coming, honestly, being one of the things that you might want to have as you're developing your bug bounty skills. What's the next one?
I'll say the other one would be understanding of, the second one would be understanding impact. And it's ridiculous, because you're going to end up in a situation where you find something, you're like, holy smokes, this is a really massive bug. I'm going to report it in. And then it's just, a faulty configured SPF record on a host that's somewhere like, nobody cares about that unless you're doing a vulnerability assessment for a company, so they know about certain stuff. Because in pen testing, you need to report everything. But in this case, you kind of need to understand impact. What is impactful for this organization? Because it's changed from organization to organization. Let's say information disclosure on one organization, for instance, let's say Uber. Let's say we had an information disclosure on Uber where we will get the PII information of drivers. Would you consider that to be an impactful bug?
Maybe.
It depends, right? But if you had the possibility to ask somebody, an unknown person, to get PII information on that Uber driver's clients, now we're talking about information that really shouldn't be out there. Personal information, credit card information, all that stuff that's connected to that, that's information that they will be very, very concerned about if that information was found out. It could also be like trading data. Like if you had the possibility to get information from an API, let's say that the X amount of sales has been going on from blah, blah, blah during this period, and that's not public information, then you can use that to do insider threats or insider trading for that company, because you know how to place the stocks. That would be an information disclosure that's valuable. But somebody's email address, not as much.
Interesting. Okay, and that's a big deal. How often do you find yourself like discovering like these, like you're first of all, how long does it take to like hack a target and try to find a bug?
It depends on the target.
Like on average, like what's the shortest amount of time you've spent and like the longest amount of time you've spent?
That's not a relevant answer, because it would be weird, because you can stumble upon something that could be a 15K bug just randomly. You stumble upon that, and then because what could happen is that 2, 3, 1. Now a developer just pushed some code into a developer instance that they wasn't planning on, and the AWS keys for the whole infrastructure is now in clear text, available to access on that host on the internet. That's a critical bug. It's an information disclosure that's really, really terrible. And I can randomly stumble upon it. But it can also be one of those bugs that are very, very deeply inside the code base, that this old API endpoint that hasn't been used for a very, very, very long time, and it's been ported from one generation to the other, and it responds back with I don't know, clear text passwords from users. And you wouldn't know that because unless you really studied the design of that API. And that would take a lot of time.
Yeah, so I totally get what you're saying here. So it could be completely random. It could be like the first 5 minutes of you just monitoring it on a daily basis, and you come in on a Friday and the developer pushed some code and crap, you just found a vulnerability. Now that opens up another idea. Do you currently have just active scans that are all the time happening and checking open websites to see if there's any vulnerabilities? Like just kind of like throwing your net and your bait in the water and just have a bunch of traps set.
A lot of people do. I don't. I have a couple monitoring things that I monitor sites that I really like to hack on for changes. Like if there's been a push of a new JavaScript somewhere, I want to know that they committed code. Because today, in the landscape we are today, and this is also a question, does it make sense to do security audits every quarter when you're pushing code every 15 minutes?
Yeah, because gosh, with the DevOps lifecycle now, it's just constant.
It's continuous, right? So you need to have continuous testing. That's why bug bounties is so important part of the whole security posture. That's why organizations, once they have matured enough, because not all organizations can deal with this, because there's a lot of noise coming in. There's going to be a lot of crap reports being sent in because there's a lot of beginners in the field that want to send stuff in that they think are super critical. I was one of them. I've done some crappy fucking reports, but you send those in and because you're testing the water. You don't know. There's no playbook here. And you're sending those in and you're happy and you're hoping that it's going to be the big win, and they're like, no, we don't care about that. That's informative or
what a letdown though, right? Because you feel so like proud of yourself.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, beef you up, but I got this shit going, and they slap you on the head like, no, that's not for you. And you need to go back to the drawing board and just build up a new posture. So I would say understanding impact is a very important part if you want to be a bug hunter, to understand the organization. Why are they doing this? What is important for them? And then look for things that would be relevant to that. That's the second thing that you kind of need to understand. So cloud infrastructure, because you don't want to, if you run, and the reason why, maybe you're living alone in your apartment, you got a fiber connection, it's all good. But as soon as you get a girlfriend and she wants to check out Netflix and you get that Akamai ban, it's not a happy family. So you want to make sure that you VPN up, not for your protection, but for your local home IPs, not getting flagged or just being Cloudflared all over. So that's why I do most of my hacking through a VPN or through a VPS service. So I can distribute it and I can just live my life in my normal box.
Do you, quick question before we go to the third one, do you use proxy chains at all or just mainly VPN and VPSs?
No, I do. Yeah, I do proxy chains over SSL.
Okay, cool.
So that's what I do. And then I use... I use different kind of VPN providers. I've been particularly fond of Mullvad VPN and F-Secure's Freedom because they just have good throughput and they have many exit points, because sometimes when I want to bypass country restrictions because I want to hack on a website that kind of has this code that is defined to a country, I want to be in that country to hack because I can't see that if I'm on another country IP. So I use those.
I've never heard of any of those providers. Are those like... I've
the ones that do not sell your privacy.
So what were those again? One more time?
Mullvad.net.
How do you spell that?
I'll type it in the chat for you.
Yes, because I have no idea how to spell that. That sounds interesting, though.
Check out that mullvad.net. And it's because they really don't log. Because if you're using a VPN, you talked about this, but if you use a VPN that's kind of shady, you're sending all your traffic to them, and it's congratulations, this is a man-in-the-middle attack for you, and somebody else can just listen to what traffic you do. I use those because they are not financially driven, and they are independent, and I like that.
That's good. So okay, third one. What's the third skill that we should look at in trying to develop bug bounty skills?
Be a part of the community, being able to find people to hack with, because collaboration is key in the end. You can be on your own, but then you're going to end up in a situation where you think life is really, really boring because you're hacking on your own and you want to talk to somebody. And if you only have friends that don't do the same things that you do, you don't have anyone to ask. And you're just probably going to stop because you're not having anyone that motivates you. Like you're having your study group now. There's a bunch of people that are studying together because, well, you have a community there. This is the study community. We do this kind of stuff. Try to find yourself a Discord that people on your skill set or your level are also as well. Like you had Ben on, like the Nahomi's Discord is cool. Definitely Insider PhD's Discord is cool. There's a bunch of them that you can just chill out in. Maybe you have your own. I don't know if you have Discord.
I do.
Create some kind of, yeah, you do. Hey, everybody should be at NetworkChuck's Discord in the hashtag bug bounty channel and talk about bug bounties, because then you will find people to hack with. And then you'll connect people. So I would say that's a good thing. Fourth, be persistent. This is going to take time. It could take up to a year for you to find your first bug. Ooh. But if you're in, but then again, say you never. Okay, so you wake up tomorrow and you realize that everything you learn about networking through the years is gone. How long does it take for you to set up a new Cisco cluster?
Yeah, it's that would take a bit. That'd be a lot.
It'd take a bit, right?
Yeah.
And you'll poke at that, but this is all blind as well. So you'll have no manuals. You will have no interface. You need to figure out. You need to solder the interface first to get into it, and then because that's kind of how it is. It takes time. So it's persistence and patience, because we are in this industry because we are curious. We are in this industry because we love to learn and just adapt those skills into looking for vulnerabilities. I would say I spent about 3 weeks before I got my first bug, and about a month before I got my first really good paying bug.
And that's coming from someone who's been doing cybersecurity for a very long time and just kind of flipping the switch over to offensive. Interesting. So, so let's go back to that, because I'm kind of curious. So you were mainly a Windows guy.
I'm not going to give you a fourth or a fifth. I just forget about it. I don't know. I don't have any tips.
No, you're good. You're good.
I'm just throwing the balls here.
Gotcha. No worries. I mean, I didn't, guys. So you know, I didn't prep STÖK on any of this before. I just come up with these things. I'm like, okay, no pressure. Give me your top 5. And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't prep for this, so no pressure there. So going back to when you're a Windows guy, you know, PowerShell, all that kind of stuff, and then you flip the script, you're like, okay, I'm going to become more of a bug bounty person. 3 weeks in, you find your first bug, and you find your good payday later on. What is it you first started learning? Like, obviously, you got your like Burp Suite. You got Burp going. You're scanning everything. What did you start looking for? What did you know to look for?
I guess that's the thing as well. Like I looked up the OWASP top 10 list, and I looked at it and I said, okay, is there any particular kind of bug class here that interests me? Is there anything that makes my heart tangle a bit, you know, or as Marie Curie would say, does this spark joy?
Minimalist hacking.
I found business, and I found that I really, since I had that infrastructure background and I understood bandwidth and communications and networking and all that jazz, I figured, why not just go for race conditions? And I picked race conditions and I went all in for that. And after like 3 weeks on just trying to understand how it worked and trying to find tools, because there weren't any tools around. Burp, Turbo Intruder, which is a very commonly used tool for that today, didn't exist. So we had to write different kind of stuff to just be able to send that many requests at the same time. And I figured that out, and like, holy fucking smoke, this is awesome. This is super fun. And then I understood that I gained that skill set, so I moved on to the next one. And then I move on to the next one. And then I move on to the next one. So I would go all in on live targets. I I didn't do the hack the box. I didn't do the try hack me. I didn't do the pen testers labs. I just went hacking on live targets and bunk, so slapping my head against the wall continuously until I found something. And then I'm like, hooray, this is awesome. I know how to do this. Then moved on to the next one. It's like skateboarding, right? You do one trick at a time. You don't try to learn 800 tricks. You do one until you fucking nail it. And if it takes you 5,000 tries to do that kickflip, after you nail it, you kind of know how it works. It's like riding a bike. It's hard in the beginning, but eventually you get good at it. And once you're good at it, you don't forget how it works.
I love that. Okay, so you basically picked one type of vulnerability you might find, and you went hard on that one. Yeah, you learned it well.
Consumed everything around it. Like everything I could understand, how the payloads work. I set up my labs. I tried to really, get deep into just understanding how that. And then with that knowledge, all armed up and ready to go, I went on and just poked at the internet on the targets that allowed me to do that. And,
wow. Okay.
And it paid off.
So what was I'm curious, you don't have to tell me if you don't want to, but what was your first bounty? How much?
5K.
And that's not a bad payday, man. That's pretty cool for your first bounty. And again, you don't have to answer, but like, what's your biggest bounty you've had?
30.
30. My gosh. What's the caliber? Like what would a company give you for 30K? What kind of vulnerability?
RC.
A race
remote
condition?
Code execution.
Oh,
no,
remote
code execution.
Okay. Wow. That's crazy. Goodness gracious. So I want to kind of shift gears for a bit, because you've come so far. You're now, you've been doing this for 2 years offensively, and you're doing awesome. Is this your full-time job now, like bug bounty?
It used to be for a year, but in January I'm starting as a cybersecurity expert and content creator for TrueSec, which is a Swedish company that specializes in incident response and just good old cybersecurity. And they have a bunch of Microsoft MVPs. It's just a really cool shop to work at. So I'm joining those in January.
Congrats,
but I've been doing
that's
bounties.
awesome.
Yeah, thanks. It's all good. And so I'm happy about that. I decided to quit my old job in November last year because I wanted to do bounties for a year and see what happened. But then Corona hit, and so all the live hacking events that I was supposed to go on and all these adventures and all that all got canceled. So I needed to rethink my stuff. That's why I started doing YouTube videos, because I figured that, okay, at least, I can share the kind of knowledge that I learn with people and just get other people inspired, because they're going to be in a situation just like I am. Like, you want to hack stuff, you want to learn stuff. And it's kind of hard to curate information. So that's why I do Bounty Thursdays, because that's just my view on things that I know are cool. But it's all my opinions. It's not like the Council of Bug Bounty has decided that this week these are the tools that's going to be shown on STÖK Show. It's more like me just finding stuff that I think look cool in a tweet and just talking about it. But
good. That's awesome.
It's a news source.
So I know right now you're kind of doing a few interesting things. You have like your own clothing brand, right?
I do.
Oh, tell me about that.
I have a sustainable fashion store, so I do that. And I got a couple of sunglasses coming out. I got these ones here, and I got these blue light glasses here coming out, and then I got these adapter ones. These are still in a beta test. It's a collaboration with Sheepo that made sunglasses, and so they are blue glass, but they also, as soon as they get in contact with UV light, they dim. So you have both in the same. So you look really cool outside, but then you can look at the screen for those late night hackering.
Nice.
All good.
It's the hacker glasses. I appreciate it. So what's your site for your clothing store?
Thrivestore.se.
Thrivestore.se.
It's in Swedish though, so bear with me there. It's a sustainable fashion store where we sell everything that's organic, sustainable, fairly produced, and vegan. And I run it together with my wife. And we have a physical store here in Gothenburg and a small team of people working with us. And we've been doing that for 5 years. It's pretty cool. Good stuff.
Dude, that's so cool. My
Thanks.
gosh. Yeah, no worries. I can use Google Translate, and I know what's going on here now. No, this is awesome.
Thanks, man. check it out. So there's a lot of cool stuff like that. Yeah, no, I do that. But then again, I have a clothing brand called Fits Misfits that do sustainable sweaters, T-shirts, and all this kind of stuff. But that kind of got put on hold with Corona as well due to the deliveries. I really need to go visit the factories in India due to the fact that when it comes to sustainable manufacturing and working laws and laborers, I want to be top of the game. It's going to be the best product. It's going to be fair working wages, and all that stuff is super important to me. So I need to go visit the factories, and I can't do that right now. So I put that on hold until, this Corona situation lifts, but then we're back on producing really cool swag again.
Yeah, I have to admit, like this year, I was so stoked to actually meet you and all the other hackers in person. Because I mean, I was going to go to all the hacking events I could. I had it planned out. I was so excited, and it sucks. It really sucks right now. So I'm curious. You kind of already answered the question for me. I'm curious, like, what's next for you? You're going to be starting at this company, but as far as like your channel and what you're going to plan on creating content-wise, what's next? What are you going to do?
I think I'm gonna continue doing this kind of stuff, and then eventually, hopefully, I want to talk more about cybersecurity awareness. That's definitely the kind of content that gonna be creating for TrueSec, just to get that bridge out, like it not being specifically deep into bounties, but more getting people that are maybe sysadmins today and get those cybersecurity curious. Like these are the tools that you can use to hack your own organization, so you know what's going on, so you don't need to be in a situation to not know what's happening. And these are the tools you can use to identify what's going on. So more branching into the awareness side of things while keeping us bounty Thursdays, because I love the fringe that bounties are. It's actually just pushing the edge all the time, always pushing, always the latest kind of coolest things just come out of bounties. And I love that. And as soon as this world just gets in some kind of order and I can get back to the live hacking circuit again, I'm going to do that. Like that's my plan. But we'll see what happens. I have to be honest, I can't look into the STÖK's crystal ball and say this is what's going to happen, but I'm definitely going to keep on creating content and doing stuff like that. But I really wanted to get deep into incident response and threat hunting and understand that deeply from the inside. So doing that together with the TrueSec team is something that I'm really, really looking forward to do.
That's going to be fun to see. I can't wait to watch all of that. Now, I'm curious. With the way you talked before about how things are definitely changing in technology. We've gone from having infrastructure on-prem to now in the cloud to now we're even changing to where infrastructure is just now code. DevOps, the DevOps teams, programmers are responsible for their own security in their code. They're running Kubernetes and Docker. How has this changed the bug bounty scene? Is it actually increasing the opportunities or decreasing because of all the automation?
No, I would say it's definitely increasing. Everything is increasing. As soon as somebody decides to do something and put something on the internet, there's a risk that somebody's going to fuck that up. Bear with me here. I'm just going to give you a mind-boggling adventure and a thing to think about.
I'm buckling my seatbelt. I'm ready, Ben. Let's go.
Cool. So this year is the first year in 2020 where the cyber criminal money amount has surpassed the total global narcotic sales. You need to understand how big that is and how little people talk about it. People are talking about zero discussions or zero allowance on narcotics and all this cocaine and stuff that is really troubling. But then again, there's this ransomware company, this organization now, these APTs that are super mega organizations, very fine-tuned, that are distributing malware, locking systems and demanding ransoms all over. And they're using misconfigured VPNs. They're using all these CVEs and serial, everything that bounties is all about. That's also what the criminal side is doing. So I would say it doesn't matter if you're deploying the latest thing in the Kubernetes at scale if you're doing it wrong. because it's going to break anyway. Like nobody thought that F5's load balancer were crappy until everybody realized that they're shit.
Well, hold on real quick. What's wrong with F5's load balancers?
Too many CVEs, man. Too many CVEs.
Because I've deployed those.
Yeah, you know. But then again, if you can do it like a dot semicolon to do a path reversal, and then you just get, these straight up just clear password on all the users that are logged in into the Active Directory, isn't that like bothering? Maybe that wasn't just F5. Maybe there was Juniper or some of the other. All these providers are just having issues with things that they push. And that's why we need security researchers. That's why we need people, because sysadmins like I was and people, we trust these organizations blindly. We think that, well, of course, they know what's going on. Of course, they make everything very secure. Yeah, we thought that about the US voting system as well. That apparently was shit. So there's IoT devices constantly coming out. Code is being pushed every day under high pressure. We need to push code now. We need to get the latest release. People don't have time to do the kind of identification of vulnerabilities and bugs like they did when they built, NASA built their spaceships. And that cost a lot of money.
Yeah, like what people don't realize, and like a lot of my people in the chat aren't familiar with like CI/CD pipelines and things, but like how we used to do code development, and we still do, is someone would write their code, it would go through a whole pipeline of people making sure it's safe, security team would check it out, everything. Now it's a bit different. Things are so rapid. The security teams don't get their hands on it immediately sometimes. Like it's crazy, man. So we're almost out of time here, so I got one question for you. Bug bounty sounds cool, and it does sound like it's obviously not a quick path to success. You have to put some work in, and it could take a bit to get to that up to snuff, to get to the point where you could do stuff. So for someone who's maybe 13, 14, 15, 16, who's like, man, I want to be a hacker. It looks so cool. My favorite show is Mr. Robot. Would you say that becoming a bug bounty hunter full-time is a viable career path for a lot of people?
I would say so, absolutely. But then again, you need to understand, if you're really smart in playing this game right, and you're 13 to 18 maybe you're even 20 in your 20s, it doesn't matter, because use that as a springboard. Most of the people that I know that have really cool jobs now in some of the major companies, they are from the bounty scene, because we all get we instead of just having that, oh yeah, I got the ethical hacker certified blah 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 certificate that shows you that you can answer a couple of questions, right? Compared to, look at these disclosed bugs that I did. Look at all these Hall of Fames that I got. Look at all these bugs that I reported that got solved, that I found. That's true work. That's like, show them what you got. It's like if you're asking an artist, you don't ask him, did you go to art school? I'm curious about how good you are at handling the pens. You'll see, show me your work. Show me your work.
That's cool.
And that's how it is. I respect for the HR, the need for certificates, but if that's not your path, show that the work that you've done. And bounties is a very good way to do that. Disclose your bugs, do nice write-ups, talk about it.
Interesting. So it's almost like you're interning immediately. You're interning for those companies immediately. You do something cool, they're going to end up hiring you eventually, especially if you're good. If you find a vulnerability in their network, they're probably sitting in their IT going, oh, why didn't Bob find that? Let's fire Bob and hire this guy.
Yeah, and then they're going to ask you, like, okay, so we noticed that you sent in like 20 reports on our organization. You seem to be very interested in the things that we do. They're well written. We have high respect for you, and our security team are very interesting. It's a high chance that they're going to reach out to you and want you on the inside. It's a very, very good career path. So if you're 14 and you want to start hacking, do that. Do all the CTFs, do all the fun stuff, play, have fun. Instead of just watching that Mr. Robot show, do some hack the box. it might seem like I'm some kind of elitistic person. I don't own a TV because I hack instead. Like when I get home, I'll I have some tea, I'm listening to some music and I'm hanging out with my wife and I'm hacking a bit. And then of course I got some screens, I got an iPad and such that maybe I'll watch some TV show on. But I'll do that as a part of doing something else because I'm just always poking at stuff. And then eventually poking at stuff turns into getting hard cash. I'm down with that. This is the only hobby that I had in my life as a 40-year-old person that actually is paying me to do my hobby. Fishing used to cost a lot of money. Snowboarding cost a lot of money. Racing car costs a lot of money. But I'm getting paid for this one and I like it.
Dude, that first of all, that is weird you don't own a TV, but it's awesome that you don't. I think a lot more people would be crazy successful if they just threw out their TVs right now. That's good motivation.
It adds a lot of production value because you get bored and like, man, I can't watch that barbecue TV series again. Maybe I'll just hack a bit, and then you're gaining knowledge. Like that's how I see it. I'm tempted to get one of those TVs.
Well, that's amazing because, like, God, I'll say it. I say this all the time on my channel, but that's why I really love hacking. All the other IT professions, most of them anyway, you have to go down that traditional path of either going to school or getting certifications. You kind of build up to that point, and maybe you'll get a job by having a great interview, great resume. But hacking, you just go in there and start doing it. You're playing, you're messing with it, you're actually doing what you're learning. You can immediately add that to your resume. It's really cool. Like, I love that so much.
Hands-on. That's all it is. You get down to it. I usually say this. This is the way I say it. You will not be a really great American football NFL player by watching Super Bowl Sundays. You need to touch the ball.
That's good.
That's how it is. You need to do the work because it's like having a camera, right? You can watch all the YouTube shows and series about how to use a camera and all these unboxing and everything. But if you don't use your camera to take pictures, you will not become a good photographer.
No, you're exactly right. That's really great advice. Now, I know I said the last question was the last question, but I lied, and this is the last question. So I lie a lot on this. We talked about like people earlier in the career, maybe trying to decide what they're doing. Let's talk about someone mid-career. Maybe they're 35 or something, and they're looking at a career change. That's happening to people right now because of the situation, right? I mean, I know tons of people who have great careers that just went down the toilet because of the situation. Whoa, what would you recommend for them right now? Would this be a good path to go down?
Absolutely. And because one, you can work from anywhere. 2, you don't have a boss that tells you what to do. 3, you can spend as much time as you want. And 4, it doesn't really cost anything to get started. You can have a crappy laptop, and you can use like getting a Droplet or an AWS box. You can even use those free tier ones if you want to have one of those, and you can just start poking at it. And I bet somebody that owns a computer that they're not using. Take that computer. If you want to use Windows, put some of that WS2 thingy on it, or just install Ubuntu on it and have fun. And then take it from there. Kali Linux comes with burp installed. Like, play around with it. Try some OWASP SAP. Just do things. And every second you invest in yourself is going to be growth. You're leveling up.
Dude, I love that. That's like the best advice, and it's so cool that we have this industry. It really, it's cheat codes for life. Really, it's amazing. And if you could find that you like doing it, you win. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Well,
and if you want to be in a situation where you don't have that money, I know you want to cancel this, but I'm not letting you. So, but
no,
you're good. You don't have any cash and you're worried. Like what should I do? Like, can I sort this out? Then you just have a side gig, hustle. Like, do your normal stuff during the days and do this a couple of nights. The thing that I did in the beginning was that I asked my boss and said, okay, I'm willing to take a pay cut. And I want to take Thursdays off. I don't want to work on Thursdays because then I want to invest 8 hours into my passion called bug bounties.
Interesting.
And I took the pay cut. That's why it's called Bounty Thursdays, because on Thursdays I did bounties.
Love that.
And I did that week
Man.
after week after week after week. I got up in the morning, I did my 8 hours, and I got to bed, because I realized that me getting home from work, cooking dinner for my wife, and then trying to hack, my brain was just mushy.
Oh,
wasn't hungry for it. So I would start a couple of nice scans running on Wednesday nights, go to bed, and they just have a fresh bread in the morning that I can just poke at and figure out. And if I found some bugs, that was cool. If I didn't, I spent a day learning.
Man,
That's
dedication. That's cool that you did that. Wow.
Yeah, but it paid off. I got a year's salary in under 6 months. I'm good with that. Lol.
Yeah. Well, and that, people, I get questions all the time.
It's a high risk, high return kind of game. So
Yeah.
it's not
People
for
are like,
everyone.
where do I invest my money? Like, dude, like invest in yourself. Like, you are your greatest investment. Invest, like taking that one day out of your paycheck each month. Yeah, obviously paid off, and it's still paying off. Like, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So, I want to be respectful of your time. So let's go ahead and bring this to a close. Stoke, where can people find you?
I'm over at youtube.com/StokeFrederick and Twitter the same. So it's twitter.com/StokeFrederick and Instagram.com/StokeFrederick. I don't have a Discord, but I heard you have a really cool one. And,
So go there,
if
yeah.
anyone haven't joined the NetworkChuck Discord, it's going to be a bug bounty channel there that people can hang out in. It's going to be really cool. I heard good things about that Discord.
Maybe even Stoke might show up in there. Who knows?
Maybe I'll even do a cameo. So
Cool. So YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. I'll put links to that all below. Also, I'll include the links to your company, your clothing company, which is super cool. Now, I saw on your Twitter a while back you had this like it was like noobs, but it was like all different looks and sweat. Like you have that somewhere, right?
yeah.
Where can I buy that?
Wait.
Okay, cool. Stoke is gone. Where'd he go? He's getting a shirt, a sweater. So Stoke has some of the coolest styles of fashions. Now, real quick, while Stoke is gone, never mind.
No, I'm back again.
That's amazing. I love that. Where can we get that?
You can't at the moment because I need to figure the factory out. But as soon as I got that up and running and got my glasses running, those are going to be available over at stokefrederick.com. So you're going to be able to get those. I did a pre-test with Ben has one and a couple of other friends. I sold 100 of them in the first one, but they were really expensive to produce. So and shipping things to Singapore apparently cost $150 that I had to pay for. So there was a minus deal there. So yeah, no, those are going to be out at a later stage. So please just be patient with the current situation, but I'll get them out. I'll get them out.
All right, I'll be patient. I'm looking for it, though. I want one, man. Put me on that list. Well, anyways, guys, if you haven't subscribed to Stoke, I don't know what you're doing. Go subscribe. Bounty Thursdays is fantastic. So if you're looking at going down the bug bounty path, which sounds like, man, it's just a cool way to just, even if you don't want to become a hacker, like it could be a cool hobby. It's definitely more lucrative and better for your brain than video games. So just do that. Like that's what I'm going to start doing. I'm just going to start playing around, see what happens.
You should.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a noob. I know that. That's why I want that shirt. But yeah, I'll give it a try. But Stoke, I so appreciate you coming on, man. It's awesome to have someone like yourself. It's so much industry expertise to come on and just shed your knowledge with my audience and me, honestly, because I'm a noob. Yeah, dude. Well, we'll have to have you on again. Maybe I'll have better questions with a bit more knowledge, and we'll have a more advanced discussion on bug bounty. Right now, I'm just like, hey, what's bug bounty? What's a race condition? So we'll have more knowledgeable things as I grow up a little bit and become more like you. Well, guys, that's about it. Thanks again, Stoke, and we'll catch you guys next time.